Happy Thursday to you. It is the day after Committee of the Whole Council meeting. A lot was discussed last night, and so I'm here today to give you kind of the digest, the roundup. Yes, you can watch the replay video online. And when the minutes are posted, you will be able to, this is a feature on the municipal website, you'll be able to skip right to the relevant part of the meeting where it is discussed. So of course, you can watch the entire hour and 40-minute meeting for yourself. But the purpose of this is to give you a more compressed, abridged digest of what was discussed last night. This is the kind of thing that I plan to do if elected as your mayor. I hope to get to do that because, sometimes there's extra information that you should know in addition to just reading the minutes or, again, having to sit through. Not that I mind it. I'm kind of a policy wonk like this. I really have been for 2 years going to these meetings. But I understand that a lot of residents say, just give me the highlights. And so that's what I'm here for. So yesterday I talked about how to access the agenda. And so you can do that. I have it in my hand here. And what I want to do today is go through the specific documents that when you go to the HTML version, again, see more on that yesterday, you can click into it, read those documents. But of course, the purpose of Committee of the Whole is for the council to discuss what to put on the agenda for the regular council meeting and what to vote on. Another important thing to know is that in order for something to become a bylaw, in effect, it needs to pass through 3 readings, and the Committee of the Whole can constitute that first reading. So we'll probably not get to, I'm sure we're not going to get to the some of the decisions that were the requests, food truck regulations, bylaw amendments until tomorrow. But last night was the first reading for some of these things. And then the second and third reading can happen on the same night at the regular council meeting. Okay, so there's a little bit of civics for you. How does a bylaw become a bylaw in the municipality? A first reading that can happen at Committee of the Whole. This is where councillors are seeing these things come across their desk for the first time, typically drafted from the CAO's office. Again, these are the full-time people who are doing the work every day of executing all the tasks that need to be done here in the municipality. And then council will read and approve or recommend amendments on things like that. And then second reading, and by third reading, when it's passed, it is a bylaw in effect, which again can always be amended in the future. Nothing is ever chiseled in stone. So last night, the meeting began with the new business was a community safety fire update. So the fire chief did weigh in and talk about how the fire season started early. This is something that the province of New Brunswick declares. Basically, fire season is open, and because we are still under drought conditions from last year's very low precipitation, the province has asked all residents of New Brunswick to start looking at the fire watch scale. So obviously green is, burn with caution, yellow is burning restrictions, and red is a burn ban, where if you're living in New Brunswick last year, you're definitely familiar with that. Now, one question that was asked in this period was from a councillor who asked about the difference between the rural ward and the urban ward. So this is really good to know. I live in the urban ward, and if I want to burn, typically a permit is required if I wanted to burn on my property. Now, this doesn't include, small cook devices or that kind of thing, but typically if I wanted to have an open fire on my property, I would need to request a permit. And, I will actually put the links for where you can do this in the description if you're watching this on YouTube and Facebook. Okay, so that's really important for all of our safety and for you to know how, because a lot of time, when I talk to people at their doors, whether it's complaining about a pothole or where do I get a permit, how do I get a permit, this is the kind of thing that I think can be better at your fingertips. Great service, great town. That is what I want to improve as your mayor. So right now what I can do too. And I suppose in these roundups in the future, if elected, I can help with links like that. But I do want to make things more accessible. There is money being set aside for a website improvement. So hopefully we see that in the next year or two. And to me, that would include really helpful links like this, because right now I've had to help you navigate to minutes and council affairs, and it is a bit of a labyrinth. So for the rural areas, there aren't any specific permit bylaws required. So in Ward 1 of the Municipal District of St. Stephen, that's considered a more rural area. And for now, the province and the municipality ask that you follow, if you live in the rural area, the GNB recommendations and the categories about what you can do in terms of burning on your property. So again, I'll include the link for that. If you're not familiar with it, it's really helpful. There are different categories of permitted fires. Category 1, for example, no larger than 3 meters in diameter, not higher than 2 meters in height. So just simmer down there with adding all the kindling and that kind of thing. So category 1 in a rural area, you do not need to ask for a permit. Also, burn barrels in a lot of cases. If you have a rural property, you may burn in a burn barrel without a permit. This came from the fire chief last night. But then there are increased categories where written permits are required. And so, you can read those in the links. I don't want to get too far into the weeds here. So it's really important for you to know as well that the fire chief did mention that the province, this is post-amalgamation, right? We are still learning to work together, rural wards, urban wards, wards across. There is going to be some uniformity imposed in terms of permits and the ability to burn and not burn. Again, right now it's separated between rural and urban, but there is going to be an update to the Fire Act, and that should harmonize the municipalities. So not sure how you feel about that. That may be something that we need to discuss in my first year as mayor. As I knock on a lot of doors in the rural areas, I am seeing a lot of folks who live in the rural area just basically saying, let me mind my own business and please mind yours. I hear that. And at the same time, the municipality is subject to the greater laws of the province of New Brunswick. So when they pass an act that constrains the behavior, the activity of residents in the municipality, then there is an extent to which we must comply. And I want to talk about another item where that's true. Municipal borrowing, for example, borrowing money, things like that. The province really does have a lot of say in how municipalities conduct themselves, set their budgets, borrow, and things like fees and burn bans and things like that. Now, municipalities can advocate for themselves through the Union of Municipalities of New Brunswick. Anytime we form a collective voice, we can affect change. And so again, I hear rural residents, and this was very relevant to folks in the rural wards. And so I just wanted you to know about burning and what was discussed last night. Now, at this rate, this is going to be hours and hours, so I am going to stop pretty soon here. I'm going to kind of cut the video off soon, because this will take multiple days to go through what was discussed. I won't go into that much detail on the rest of the items, I promise. The next item that was discussed really is the CAO's office. Now, if you want to know what the staff are doing, again, the CAO, that only employee of council, reports to the council on his activities and how he has been overseeing staff and taking initiatives and doing certain tasks. So the last item I want to talk about on today's video is the CAO's report. And give you a sketch of what's been going on. Really, what you should know here is there's a new council orientation program being put together. This is typical when a new council is elected, mayor and council. They are taken through an orientation program about how the relationship with the staff is structured. A lot of the things I've been teaching you, but it's very, very important for you to know that I know that, and then of course for the staff to know that everyone's on the same page, etc. So there's that orientation piece that the CAO puts together as a package and brings the new council through. The CAO, Jeff, also said that he has been meeting with candidates. I know I met with Jeff last week. We had a great conversation. Others have done so. So he reported that he's been doing that with his time. The Bud Avenue Extension Project, this is a really interesting thing that you're going to see coming up again and again. Bud Avenue, of course, is the road that goes, past the Civic Center and is adjacent to, it's the frontage for the new hotel going in, right by the waterfront. And of course, the Beacon Apartments. But there is that incredible piece of land on the other side of the Beacon Apartments. If you walk the path, and I run it every single morning, and I always look at that empty patch of land, and I think that has got to be the best real estate in the municipal district of St. Stephen in terms of the stunning view of the river. Right now, it's completely undeveloped land. It is municipal, and so there is some interest. You're going to see this in the future St. Stephen report, but you're also going to see discussions around building out, extending Bud Avenue. I have talked to you about pavement and pipes and policing being, the bulk of the, frankly, the municipal the budget burden on all of us when we pay our property taxes. Police cost a fortune, and so do pipes and pavement. And so the Bud Avenue extension, when we think about more development on a piece of land like that or the hotel, the municipality begins to develop out a road like that. And what you're going to see is, this is the capital plan, and I've been kind of carrying this around house to house. A lot of people are wondering about paving the roads and if their road is on it. And believe it or not, this is the 2026 plan, and a lot of people have a lot of interest. Is my road on the list? And I live on Churchill Street. It's not on the list. But this is literally the roads names and the cost. And so it's good to see that in black and white, several $100,000 for a stretch of road in town, Union Street, Queen Street, between this and that. But the Bud Avenue extension is about $2.5 million for, again, pipes and pavement, extending that out for development. Now, that kind of cost, that kind of liability does make sense for a large apartment unit with many, many dwellings, right? But I have talked to you about how this is why the Border Arena development is ideal, because we already have pipes and pavements on King Street. And so we just need to put, of course, there's going to be connection fees, but not brand new. In this case, in the Bud Avenue case, we are going to see brand new development there that costs the taxpayers an investment. Again, that's a liability on the books that will have to be repaired and maintained over time. But the theory is that the hotel will bring a lot of tax base, and if there's a new building, new development there, that will bring a lot of tax base as well, which will share out that cost. So pay attention if you're hearing like the Bud Avenue extension. This, of course, is kind of like right now it just leads to the Beacon Apartments, and that's it. But it could be extended, and that seems to be in the works as well. And the road rehabilitation, as I said, the tender is being finalized for repairing the roads, as I just showed you. But there is concern that with oil prices being what they are, and diesel prices, then the tender that goes out, we will be quoted at much higher rates for materials and for machinery and things like that, which means we might not get as pavement bang for our buck. There is a concern around that. So council did discuss what happens if we accept a tender and then we don't get as much as we would have otherwise. This is something council has to consider. I am of the opinion, just me as a guy who's not sitting on council, wants to be your mayor, things tend to just go up in general. If you look at the cost of pavement today compared to 5 years ago, it probably went up. And 5 years ago compared to 10 years ago, it probably went up. So there's that sense of the longer we delay, the more expensive it is going to get. Besides, residents are really kind of fed up with the rough roads, whether it's rural or urban, and so we want to see more pavement going down. And so there did seem to be a consensus on council that we just need to get on with it. We don't want to lock into a bad deal. So there is that kind of give and take of accepting tenders, accepting bids, and deciding whether or not it is worth that investment on new pavement. And so you're going to see more about those tenders coming in. Council will have to vote on accepting the tender, and there was discussion around that. Then there is new councillor training. It is not mandatory, but when you have a new council and a new mayor, and the CAO even had a date, June 12th and 13th, I believe it was, which of course, as your councillor, as your council and as your mayor, I would definitely want to see every single person on that council, and myself, I will commit to taking that training, absolutely. And there has been talk around remuneration, if you recall in previous meetings, maybe making the council remuneration, the compensation that they receive, contingent on taking that training or other trainings. That needs to be hashed out as well. That would basically be a councillor bylaw. Okay, so that's all the time we have for today. We covered the burn stuff. Again, look for those links in the descriptions and the CAO report, just so you know exactly what the priorities of staff have been. And now tomorrow we will move into other reports. There's lots of good stuff for you to know. Believe it or not, I am distilling this down a little bit. And so looking forward to taking on more of that with you tomorrow. buildupststephen.ca. Check out my website for my commitments, my priorities. Ultimately, I want to be leading a council you trust, building a St. Stephen we are proud of. A lot of these things will be on my plate as your mayor, so I look forward to tackling those with your input as well and representing you and sharing that action plan, that 5-stage action plan that we all understand, so you know where we are at in every stage of the process. That's the governance model I commit to bringing to you. Have a great rest of your Thursday. I'll see you tomorrow Friday for more municipal plan fun report stuff. Have a good one. Take care of yourself and your neighbor. Let's build up St. Stephen.